Hello and welcome back to another new episode of Emotional Eating Unwrapped. I'm your host, Alana Kessler, and we are here with Brittny today again for another Q and Alana episode. So, hi, Brittny.
Hi, I love the name of these episodes. That's my favorite part.
I know, me too. I think it's so fun. It works. It works because my name starts with an A. So, I
Yeah,
think it can work with any
exactly.
name. But anyway, so I'm very excited to be here. It is actually the first episode that I'm recording in my new home in Chicago. So thanks for being here with me. You'll see that my walls are very bare. I haven't hung up my sign yet, but that is coming. So, yeah, it's really nice to be able to inaugurate this new space with this Q and Alana episode. So,
Oh, that's so great. Congratulations, by the way. That's exciting. New journeys.
new journeys. I know. So before we jump into it, I always like to introduce myself to people that I have never met before. So if you are new, and also to reintroduce myself to people that have listened. But my name is Alana Kessler, and I'm a registered functional dietitian. I've been in the health, the wellness space, mindfulness space for 20 plus years. I've done so many things. I've been teaching yoga and meditation for 2 decades. I owned a yoga studio, but over the last decade and change, really my passion has been helping people really find authentic love with their body, lose weight if that's a goal for you, feel good about that goal if that's a goal for you, reconnect with yourself, overcome any kind of addictive or emotional attachments and patterns that you have with food, and really just strip everything away that's causing you any kind of noise and live your best life, because that's what we're here to do. So, welcome and welcome back. And just, one more thing, just don't forget to like and subscribe. You can subscribe to us on Spotify, Apple, YouTube. And, if you feel up to it, you can rate us 5 stars, leave us a written review, and you can help other people find us, because that's how they find us in this new algorithm world that we live in. So, thanks, guys.
Yes, I'm especially excited for this episode today. I really feel like we're getting a hang on these like Q and Alana episodes. So we have been reaching out to our audience now beforehand. So before we were kind of like going back through some of the archive things and building out episodes, but now we've kind of been reaching out to the audience beforehand, kind of tapping in to see like what they're talking about. So this is something that we've just been talking about. We've seen conversations around being less comfortable with discomfort, like as a whole. And so that's what we did. We asked the audience, like, have you noticed this? Have you noticed that you are becoming increasingly less comfortable with discomfort? I think there's a lot of things we can point to that, but maybe you eat just when you're uncomfortable is kind
Mhm.
of the theme of like, what we were getting at with this episode. So we had some people write in, which was so great. Okay, so number one, some days I'm not even physically hungry, but I feel bored or uncomfortable. And food sounds like the thing that's going to make it better. What's going on there?
Okay, so I mean, really, the answer to the question is sort of in the question, which is that you're bored. And a lot of times, we in this society, we're not conditioned to deal with boredom, right? Boredom has a flavor of or reputation of being unproductive. And so, what we want to do is be more productive. And a lot of times, subconsciously or even consciously, and oftentimes, for a lot of people, because food is an activity or eating is an activity, it can make people feel productive, which is why oftentimes eating and food is used in this way.
Yeah, going back to their question, I think too, it's like they're saying, I'm not even physically hungry. And you're saying that the boredom kind of like overrides that.
Well, yeah, because we're not approaching food from a place of energy management or nourishment. We're approaching it from a place of filling space and filling time and giving us and making us feel like we're having a purpose or having a like being productive. Mainly because we're not able to accept or sit in boredom, right? Being able to stay in a place of low stimulation is a skill. And
Mm.
I think that not many people in this modern society have that skill. And so eating and food become a really low lift way to give you that sense of immediate stimulation. But I think what's important is that the goal isn't to figure out how not to need that. The goal isn't to find another way to have stimulation. The goal is to realize that it's okay not to have stimulation. And and you have to teach your nervous system how to be in that space.
Yeah. I think too, in a past episode you most recently did about diet culture and how diet culture is also linked to that same, like you're just swapping one thing out for another. So I think that was listening to that for me was really crucial because I had never put that connection together before.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, a lot of times it is a transference of things that's happening.
Okay, so this person asks, why does food feel like such fast relief when I'm overwhelmed, even if I know that it's not actually solving the problem?
Yeah. I think that's such a good one because it really highlights the fact that knowing doesn't change your emotional state, because knowing that food isn't going to help isn't necessarily going to stop you from going to it. Just repeat the first part of that question again.
Why does food feel like such a fast relief even when I'm overwhelmed?
A lot of that has to do with the sensory experience of food, actually. Food gives you such a well-rounded sensory experience, right? So it has the sight, the smells, the sound, not the sounds, but the taste, and even the sounds sometimes because of the crunching. So a lot of people like to eat crunchy things because there's not only the taste of the food, but there's also the sound. And when we engage with our senses, like if you think about when people have a panic attack or get overwhelmed, one of the first things that a lot of people tell you to do is to take notice of your surroundings and, pick out something you could see, pick out something you could smell, right? So immediately that calms your nervous system. It makes you feel less overwhelmed. It makes you feel more grounded. And so when you engage your senses, you feel immediately more grounded, and food and eating has that element to it. That's why it's so important that we train ourselves to have non-food sensory experiences that we can also rely on. But also food does have that quality of of serotonin, and it does provide a certain, because of the flavor and because of the way that it interacts with our hormones, it has an extra thing to it that makes us continue want to go back to it. So it's not as easy as just substituting it for another thing, even though that's the goal, like that's the job, that's the task, is to be able to not only have food to make you feel grounded. It's okay sometimes, obviously, but only if it's causing you distress or if it's hindering you from reaching your goals, then that you need to include other grounding exercises other than eating.
Yeah. Yeah, that's super fair. So this person's talking about they're having like a really emotional day, but they aren't eating. So it's like a lot of things is coming up for them and they can't eat. Like eating just doesn't sound good, feel good. Does this like land in the category of emotional eating?
So it definitely is in the same lane as your appetite is impacted by your emotions. But I think emotional eating is more eating, not necessarily not eating. Also, I think you have to take into context, is there emotional eating after this period of not eating, right? So I would need to know, it's possible that this person asked the question and they left out the part that they eat a lot after this period, in which case then yes, I would say that this can be a trigger for emotional eating, and it's something that you have to know about yourself, and you have to take the steps to ensure that the emotional overeating doesn't happen. A lot of that is the awareness that it does happen sometimes after this. I actually have a client who just had surgery, and she was saying how she wasn't going to eat a lot the day of her, the day of her surgery, obviously, or for maybe like 1 or 2 days. She almost like gave herself permission then to overeat on like a lot of things afterwards, because she almost assumed that her body needed it, even though, so she wasn't really necessarily connected to her hunger and fullness, her natural hunger cues. It was more just like this permission slash like habit to emotionally overeat.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so what's interesting there is like your people can be coming from a place of like diet culture, which is like, well, I didn't eat all day, so like I have a calorie bank and I can just like overeat like crazy. But emotional overeating isn't always about, isn't really about calories in, calories out. It's about your intention relating to eating. So
Yeah.
a lot of times when you're in a state of life, whether that's surgery like this client or like a breakup or like a state of grief where you're not eating, it's not abnormal for your hunger cues to be less and for you to feel less hungry for a long period of time. And the goal isn't to sit there and be like, well, I didn't eat all day, so I'm going to eat a ton at night. And it's really to honor what's going on. And maybe that means you don't eat that much for, a couple days. Now, again, if you start to, this is a balancing act. If you start to be like, oh, I'm not eating a lot and I'm getting thinner, like, and then you start to restrict. So it's really about intention and integrity more than anything else around that when it comes to emotional overeating. But, you have to know yourself and be honest.
I think that's a really great point. I'm really glad that they asked that question because I think that could be confusing, right? Like it's not technically emotional eating, but because you're not eating because of like what's going on, but then it could lead to it. So it's like the trigger. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a gate. It could be a gateway depending on how you frame it for yourself.
Yeah.
And your relationship with food. As cliche as that sounds, right? And your relationship with food. Like if your relationship with food is diet culture based, where you're like, I hardly eat today, I can eat a ton now. Yeah. That I would say is emotional.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like even as you're describing it, it does sound emotional. And then, I mean, I think of that calorie bank a lot, like personally. And I think a lot of us do probably think of that. I know I had a trainer like a couple of months ago, and that was like the only thing they wanted to talk about was calories in, calories out. And they didn't, that was the only thing we touched on for that. And yeah, it was really hard to wrap my head around for me.
Yeah, like the body doesn't need for you to like make up for stuff. It just doesn't, it's not the case. Your body's going to even out to the natural place. And that's why weight loss becomes really natural when you start to approach your eating in this way. You've built a good life. From the outside, it looks like you have it all together. You eat clean, you work hard, you take care of everyone. But there's this one area that still feels impossible to master, and that is food. You can eat perfectly all day and still end up in the kitchen at night wondering why you keep doing this. You promise yourself you'll start fresh tomorrow, and I know you mean it every single time. But the cycle, it always finds its way back, especially when you're stressed, when you're overwhelmed, or when you're just tired of being the one that's holding it all together. And I get it because I lived that way for years. And what I learned is this: the problem, it was never about food. It was the pressure underneath it, the perfectionism, the self-doubt, the part of me that never felt safe and secure to just be me. And that's why I created the sober eating sequence. It's a proven 3-phase method that rewires the emotional patterns and the belief systems driving overeating so you can relax, trust yourself around food, and release weight completely naturally, without force and without obsession. Because when your body feels secure, it lets go. The cravings quiet, the self-punishment, it softens, and food, it stops being the thing that you have to fix. This is not another plan. This isn't another rule book. It's a revolutionary transformation for your nervous system, for your body, and for your identity. So join the sober eating movement today.
So the next person asks, how can someone tell the difference between real hunger and just waiting out an uncomfortable feeling?
Good question. So real hunger is going to have physical symptoms. Real hunger is going to have like the stomach, your stomach feeling like it's contracting, like the gurgling. You're going to feel lightheaded. You might get dry mouth. I always say, like, if you just get dry mouth and you're not sure, have some water and then see if you're still hungry, or have something to drink, and see if you're still hungry. But real hunger is going to have physical symptoms, and an uncomfortable feeling is probably going to be more, not that uncomfortable feelings don't have physical symptoms, but hunger is going to have physical symptoms that are focused on the stomach area and like a lightheadedness. Whereas an uncomfortable feeling is typically going to have, it could be in the stomach, but it's going to be more of like a tightness. And it's probably going to be a tightness in the chest. And it's usually going to have like, you're going to feel like you have a headache, like in the middle of your head or like in your temples, right? It's not going to be like you're lightheaded and your eyes are starting to get dizzy, right? Unless you're having like a panic attack or something. But I mean, I'm talking about like, normally a discomfort feeling comes with overanalyzation or just like, you're like shallow breath and sort of just like anxiety, intrusive thoughts. So there's like a pounding feeling rather than like a lightheaded feeling.
I think that's a great tip for people to take away from this episode because I think understanding the difference is huge.
Yeah, no, I think that it is hard to discern. And also, if you just ate like within the last 2 hours and you're feeling quote unquote hungry, you're likely not physically hungry. So I think also think about that. Like, if you haven't eaten yet, for me, it's like 11:15. I'm starting to feel hungry. I know I'm hungry. It's 11:15. I'm not a breakfast eater. I typically eat lunch at this time, and so I am actually hungry. I could also be stressed, right? So both could be together, but I know I'm hungry because I'm having the hunger feelings. In 2 hours after I eat lunch, if I'm starting to feel antsy or just like edgy, and I want to go for eating, I'm probably not hungry. I just ate 2 hours ago.
Yeah. So this question brings us back to the discomfort feeling and like that increasing pattern that I think we see, and at least conversations I talk with my friends and family about too, which kind of brought us to this theme. But what is it about modern life that is making us, like, in your opinion, less tolerant of feeling uncomfortable and not wanting to sit in that?
Yeah. First of all, I just need to talk about the irony of this so much because more than any time in life, do we talk about this topic in the zeitgeist, like sitting with this discomfort? Like there's more mindful personal growth teachers, content about sitting in the discomfort than ever. And I think more than ever, people are less comfortable with it because the medium in which they're getting that information a lot of the time inherently contradicts being in the moment because we're not set up to be in discomfort, and discomfort doesn't mean pain. Discomfort just means the inability to be with ourselves, to just be, right? To just have a moment where you're sitting on the couch or sitting outside and just observing, just watching. It's almost like we have to have forced stillness, right? That I can't, there's so many times where now there's Wi-Fi on planes, but before that, people to go on planes and they'd be like, oh, it's such a relief. I could just, don't have to be on my phone for 5 hours or 3. And it's like, you could just do that, For some reason, they're able to be in the quote unquote discomfort. If that experience was just their regular Tuesday at their house, that would be an extremely uncomfortable situation to just be sitting there, not doing much, even just watching a show, right? Like notice how not everybody, when they're watching a movie on an airplane, needs to eat the whole time. Yet I can't tell you how many clients I have that tell me that when they're watching shows at night at their house, they have to eat at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah. They can't have one without the other.
Right. Because there's a framing that it's, like I said, it's unproductive, or there's a discomfort around stillness. So again, discomfort doesn't mean pain.
Right.
A lot of times when people are actually in pain, they're not eating because the pain is the focus. Whereas the
Yeah.
discomfort is really the lack of stimulation more than anything else.
Yeah. Yeah. And I just like, I mean, just in my life, like, you know, my friends and family talk about this. There's just so much stimulation coming at us, like at every second. So it's no wonder that people are feeling this. I know you recently did an episode about the social media and the short form content and like how that's been affecting us. So I really hope people go and listen to that episode because I feel like you had a lot of really good points.
Oh my God, that body dysmorphia and the social media one, I feel like we
Yeah.
got such good feedback from that episode. If you haven't listened to that, definitely go back and watch it. It's only like, I don't know, maybe from like 2 months ago or something. So
Yeah.
you can go ahead and watch or listen to that.
Yeah, that was a great episode and lots to come on that, I'm sure, because we're seeing changes now. I think because of the lawsuit against Meta, you know, who knows what will come of that. But I think it, like you said, with all the content creators talking about this more now, it's interesting to see like, okay, all right. And it goes back to that thing that you always talk about. Okay, like we know that we're like uncomfortable and we're becoming increasingly uncomfortable with discomfort. But what do we do about that?
Yeah. And also, people just keep collecting more content about discomfort and about being uncomfortable and about learning how to be in the now and be in the stillness. And in order, so it's almost like they think that in order to learn how to do it, they need to get more information on it. And that in and of itself is also creating discomfort
Yeah.
because it's clutter. Like intellectual clutter creates discomfort. Mental clutter creates discomfort. You know, I know that when I'm online shopping and I'm looking for one or two things, and then I end up on 7 different sites with like the same thing, I'm overwhelmed. Like I'm cluttered. I
Yeah.
don't want it. Like it would be so good if I just found the one thing, and then I just went and bought it. Right?
Yeah.
Like I
Like
went
how we
and
used to go to a store and they had one thing, they had one of it, and you
right.
just picked that up and that was it. Yeah.
You walked in, you saw it, it fit, you liked it. You know, if it didn't fit and you didn't like it, you went to another store. Now
Yeah.
I find something and then I get another ad and I'm just like, oh man, like what about this? And then the next thing I know, I have 7 tabs open with this like different variations and price points and I'm overwhelmed, you know, because because it's too much looking, you know, and I feel like at some point you really just have to apply.
You really do. I had a similar experience where before I got a trainer, I was like I went on YouTube to find like workout videos, but there's like a million. So I'm saving a lot of playlists but I wasn't doing them. I'm just saving them to the playlist. I'm scrolling to save them on the playlist. And then I switch from YouTube and I go to Pinterest because I was like, well, some of these are too long and I want to take them to the gym with me. So then I go on Pinterest and, you know, they've got like a couple reels where they maybe do 2 to 3 moves. And I'm like, okay, great. I'll just take that with me when I'm at the gym and I'll find the equipment and do it. And then I save like 1,000 pins of like my favorite, you know what? But again, it goes back to I'm just scrolling and saving. I'm not actually there. So I think it's definitely making it worse. It's that mental clutter. So yeah, would just really encourage people to avoid that and use the tools that you have to offer and, you know, just really like understand that knowing more, knowing better probably is not like the best thing right now because we're on information overload in 2026.
Exactly. Couldn't have said it better, honestly. That's exactly right. Totally.
Well, that is all the questions we got from our audience today. I really had fun with this topic, and I hope that more people send in your questions. Again, you can send those to speakpipe.com/emotional eating unwrapped, and we'll have a new theme for the next one. So we'll make sure to put that out ahead of time so people can connect with us on that one.
Yeah. And again, like if you watch on YouTube, the community tab, Brittny posts on the community tab the topic, and please ask your question there. You know, those will definitely be anonymous because people's screen names are usually like, you know, creative.
By
So
225.
yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to that one. And again, if you are a longtime listener, if you have just found us, thank you so much for choosing to spend your time with us. I really do appreciate that. And until next time, I'm Alana, and thank you, Brittny. And I'll see you next time on Emotional Eating Unwrapped.